Hello, welcome to another reel from Bharat Raghu. Today we would be looking at socialism in the 21st century. What do you mean by socialism in the 21st century? We'll look at some of the trends of socialism. What are happening in the 21st century? Is it kind of a done deal? Is it a dead idea? Or is there something remaining about socialism in the 21st century era? So let's understand this. So, to put a perspective, in the early 20th century is when the birth of socialism takes place. It grows very strong with the Soviet Union forming, and then China, and a lot of huge countries like Russia, China, and a lot of Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, and some countries in Europe, Eastern Bloc of Europe, were all moving towards a socialist model. So when we say socialism, it was the Soviet model primarily, which was the 5 year plans. You have massive industrialization, state controlled economy, where the huge the major sectors are all under the state, and they are you know basically it moves towards scientific production, planned production, and not that much by driven by, say, market or consumer oriented production. So this is what was the trend. It was the trend of the 20th century. A lot of countries, including in India, Nehru's socialism was very much inspired by the Soviet model. Now, coming after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and with the 21st century, and with globalization, with basically capitalism market spreading everywhere, all around the world, now this seems to be the only trend. But what does it mean to be a socialist in the 21st century? Or rather, are there any examples of socialism in the 21st century, is what we would look at. We'll start, of course, with China, because China is where it's still the one country which is kind of under a socialist, you can call it under a socialist government. So they are trying to build something called one model, is what you can call as the socialist market economy. A socialist market economy is where the major sectors, like in China, whether it's the railways, it is the roads, it is the iron and steel, the defense space, all the core areas are with the Chinese government. And the consumer industry, where you have like the mobiles, you have the electronics, you have a lot of other products, is where China is one of the leading producers. And from a market perspective, so China is the leading producer. China is the leading producer of the world. So China has mastered the art of managing the state controlled industries versus the kind of the FMCG, you can call it, the fast moving consumer goods, or the electronics, the cars, the entire market driven economy is controlled by the markets. So but again, it's under kind of the purview of the government, the state government. So that is the socialist market economy. It's been working well. China is the second largest. It has the second largest economy in the world. It's very close to competing with US. So China is definitely an example of a socialist market economy, of how it can be there. Another example of socialism, you can call it more from a welfare state perspective. Welfare states, you have welfare states in Europe. You have like Norway, Sweden, the happiness index kind of countries, Norway, Sweden, and Finland, and even for that matter many of the Western European countries, where the welfare state model under a capitalist, so the system is a capitalism, but under capitalism you have a welfare state model where the tax is very high on the rich, and using that tax, basically the tax is very high in general, and then as the tax is high, you get unemployment benefits, you get so basically you will not have this basic issues of joblessness or unemployment, because the state will then give you will take care of the unemployed, it will take care of the health. So the health is basically completely under the government. Even like Britain, for example, you have the NHS, which is a very a very very popular national health service. So where the state takes care of the health, the state takes care of the education, the state takes care of the basics, but the taxes are high. So that's another example of, you can't call socialism, but it's a model of an alternate model to, you can say, the brute capitalist model. So basically, welfare state and socialist market economy are two examples. There are, of course, more localized examples where you have more local industries. For example, even in Kerala, in India, where the left has been very strong, you have like local industries, like you'll have the coir industry where cooperatives operate. So cooperative model where you have cooperatives actually not basically run like by one individual or one family or one huge company, but it will be a group of people. So you have the coir industry, even you have famous companies like Amul, which is a cooperative, the milk production in India. So you have some examples of, you can say, cooperatives, which is another model of having which could eventually in the direction of socialism. So there is this cooperative model even in South America, Latin America. A lot of left presidents have been elected, and Morales, Eva Morales, and Hugo Chavez, and so the 21st century saw a lot of left. It's called the pink tide of South America, where a lot of regimes were pro-left, and in that scenario again, but although the party may be left, but the what are the policies? The policies are pretty much the same. It's just that the core industries should be under the state control, because oil, for example, in Venezuela, the main there was so much poverty in the 20th century at the end, whereas Venezuela is one of the richest oil producers. And how can that be? How can the people be poor when its economy is driven by oil? And that's when changed, when Chavez and came into power, and they worked on where the benefit of the oil should come to the people, and that can only happen when the state controls the major sectors like oil and the huge revenue, the basically the commanding heights of the economy. And it's again a similar model as how a socialist market economy. So this is what is basically happening. To put you in a nutshell, in the 21st century, socialism is become more related to the market. It's a socialist market economy. You cannot ignore the markets. The markets are there, there will be competition, and it's needed because one of the reasons the Soviet Union collapsed was because there was no competition, there was no consumer feedback on the products that were being produced. Like the state used to produce the cars, the state used to produce, even in India, a lot of like the Hindustan Motors, the HMT. So there was so much public sectors, they used to produce basically everything that's needed, a TV set, a car, so everything. But that doesn't have innovation, that lacks innovation, and eventually you will kind of lose. As soon as you open the markets, you'll lose to the competitors. So a socialist market economy is a good idea. What's happening in China, we need to wait and watch. So it's also called as socialism with Chinese characteristics, which is something which we will also observe more and study more deeply. But this is brief of what's happening in the 21st century. Socialism is there. Socialism will be there as the workers' interest matters. The workers and the workers, with the increasing work pressure that's going on in the corporates, the workers' voice will be heard, and socialism is going to be there. But yes, will it be a leading force in forming regimes? Let's wait and watch. Thanks for watching. Bharat Raghu signing off.